Hi everyone, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and today I am very excited to bring you an incredible episode. You're going to get an exclusive look inside the Breakers, Newport, Rhode Island's grandest mansion. It has 70 rooms, including 48 bedrooms. But before we dive in, I want to welcome you inside my New York City apartment and tell you a little bit more about today's sponsor, Blueland. They're an amazing company that offers everyday products without single-use plastic packaging. And their products are also EPA's Safer Choice certified. I have their Clean Essentials kit, which includes hand soap. I have the Iris Agave scent, which I love, multi-surface cleaner, bathroom cleaner, and glass and mirror cleaner. You get these reusable bottles in fun colors that you never have to throw away. All you have to do is fill your forever bottle with warm to hot water, drop one of the tablets into the water bottle, and you can use it in minutes. No shaking or stirring needed. Plus, it's super economical. These Blueland tablets start at only $2 or $1.55 if you buy in bulk. Today, I'm using the glass and mirror cleaner, which works perfectly on my living room coffee table. Click on the link below to get 15% off your first kit. Blueland is sharing this special offer just for our viewers. Enjoy today's episode. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, I'm Melanie. Welcome to the Breakers in Newport, Rhode Island. My name is Melanie Garcia. I am the Director of Museum Experience here at the Preservation Society of Newport County. So the Breakers is a summer cottage. It's 138,300 square feet, 70-room summer cottage. Most people would refer to it as a mansion, but the families that lived here just thought of it as their summer home. They had much larger homes in New York, and this house was a miraculous feat because it took just over 2 years to build. So we are in the dining room at the Breakers. This is the largest room in the house. The ceilings are 50 feet, and at the top of the ceiling there's a beautiful painting called Aurora Heralding the Dawn, and it is attributed to Paul Baudry. Paul Baudry painted the primary ceilings at the Paris Opera House. So it really is a spectacular painting, and she's welcoming dawn into the room. So coming down from the ceiling, we have these oval windows, and on either side of the windows are these plaster figures, and they are life-size. If you took them down, they're about my height, and I'm almost 5'10". So pretty spectacular if you think the speck of the room being 50 feet tall, and them up there, they look so tiny, but they really are life-size. Also, these beautiful rose alabaster columns. These have gilt bronze capitals on the top, and we've got 12 of them around the room. It's this beautiful rose color, and they really bring warmth to the room, and it matches the red draperies and the curtains that are in here. The red that we have is known as Vanderbilt red. That was their signature color, so you'll notice that a lot in the rooms, especially in the dining room, which was going to show what the family was about and invite people in. In the room, there's these two massive structures that we have, and they are these fixtures. We have the two in the middle of the room, and we have 12 surrounding the room on the rose alabaster columns. They are Baccarat crystal from France, and they're done in the imperial pattern. So if you notice at the top, there's a little crown, and that signifies that it's in the imperial pattern. And these are both wired for electricity and piped for gas because at the time, electricity was very new and it wasn't completely reliable, so they had to have a backup. So at the bottom, you can see the chains that are coming down. That's to regulate the gas flow, and so they could make it brighter or less if they wanted to. So in the center, we have this table. It's a gorgeous oak table with a lemonwood inlay, and it might not seem that large to you for a dining room of this size, but if you look around, there are 34 Italian Renaissance chairs, and this table expands to seat all 34 of those chairs around it. So they definitely invited people in and had large dinner parties here. It was common in the Gilded Age to host two large balls each year and up to 7 dinner parties for guests. So the people that were living here were constantly hosting their own parties and going to other parties. So they had a very busy social schedule. So when the family would have their dinner parties here, they would have the food brought out from the butler's pantry, which is behind this screen. And there's a door here that leads directly into there. So food was plated, brought out by the footmen, and they were placed on these 3 tables, ready to be served to the family. And as the family was ready for each course, they would serve them, clear it away, bring out the next course. Cornelius Vanderbilt II was a man who ran the New York System Railroad. His family started with his grandfather, who was known as the Commodore, and he was Cornelius Vanderbilt I, and he started the family business in steamships. And then after the Civil War, realized that trains were the way to go. So he bought up 49 different railroads, combined them into the New York Central System, and then the family ran it. So Cornelius Vanderbilt II took over in 1885 as chairman and CEO. So originally in 1885, when Cornelius Vanderbilt II became CEO of the New York Central, he purchased a home here on the same location that was also called the Breakers. It was a Queen Anne shingle-style cottage that was built for Pierre Lorillard in 1877. And they summered here until 1892, when sadly the house burned down, caught fire. They lost everything in the house and they had to rebuild, and they decided to build this time with a brick and steel structure that was a little bit more fireproof. So this is the billiard room. Most of the rooms in the downstairs at the Breakers were designed by Jules Allard. However, there's 2 rooms that were designed by the architect of the house himself, Richard Morris Hunt. Both rooms happen to be my 2 favorite in the house, and this is one of them. It's done in an Italian Renaissance style, so it more matches the exterior of the house, whereas the other rooms are French in style. And my favorite thing about this room is the Cipollino marble from Switzerland on the walls. So if you look at the wall over here, this is the best view of it. What they did is they took these these slabs of marble. They cut them down the center, which is called butterflying them, and they put them up on the wall so it has matching veins on there. It's really spectacular, and this bluish color is really unbelievable. You don't see it in a lot of places. As you move up on the walls, we have this brownish color that is alabaster, and then above that, there's even more. There is hand-cut mosaic tiles, and they're all placed individually up there. I said this house took just over 2 years to build. The mosaics in this house took 9 months out of that 2 years that somebody just hand putting these in here. It's really intricate work, and it creates a beautiful mural on the ceiling and on the floor as well. So this room, as I said, was decorated in more of an Italian style, and so it was to emulate a Roman bath. And so you have this portrait here of Aphrodite on the top with the 2 cherubs and a little turtle, and surrounding her you have the alabaster seashells. And in the border work in the mosaics, we have scroll work, and all the way around you'll see there's twin dolphins with the scallop shell and honeysuckle, and then the trident of Neptune on there. And those all represent the sea and hospitality. So most of the furniture in the Breakers is original, and we have these amazing couches here. They're up on pedestals, so they were built up here so that you had a clear shot of the billiard table, so when people were playing you could easily see the game and see where the balls were going in. And it's these are original, and it has this beautiful fringe on here, and they match the room, so everything has this greenish color, very masculine feel to this room. So on the floors, we also have that mosaic tile, but we have a special pattern on here. If you look at it, there's 4 acorns in each circle. The acorns stand for strength and longevity. It's the Vanderbilt family crest, acorns and oak leaves. And so you'll see these in the decorations throughout the house. What is really amazing, there's a couple pieces that I really enjoy, and I'd like to point them out. So we have this beautiful 18th century Spanish leather armchair. It's embossed in silver, and that's right in the center there. And we have this little piece over here that a lot of people aren't sure what this is. And so we usually like to ask people to take guesses, and we get all sorts of answers on here. But what it is, it's an English weighing chair. It's 19th century, and it's to weigh jockeys before a race. We're not sure exactly why they had it here, if it was just a conversation piece or if they actually used it, but it's a really unique piece to have in the house. So over the years, we have had to have the draperies replaced, but all of the tassels that are on them are original to the house. So we've removed them and put them on the new reproductions, which is really spectacular. So when we go in each room, you'll notice that there are buttons on the wall that people can press, and this one in particular is to the butler's pantry and to the entrance. And so if somebody needed something from the butler's pantry, they would press that and the butler would come and see what they needed. We don't have any records of how much it cost to build this house. Unfortunately, the records were in Mr. Vanderbilt's office in New York, which also had a fire. They didn't have great luck with fires. So we don't know the cost of it, but I can't even imagine how extravagant the costs were. You're gonna see some of the materials today that they had to build this, all the marbles, the semi-precious stone, platinum leaf. It's really unbelievable. So next we're going to go to the morning room, which was where the ladies went after dinner. On our way, we're going to pass through the Great Hall, and the Great Hall was designed after open-air courtyards in Italian palaces. So this house is an Italian Renaissance palace, and they wanted to have an open-air courtyard, but because Newport's weather is so inclement, we couldn't have it open like they do in Italy. So we have the next best thing. We have this beautiful blue sky that's painted on the ceiling, and it makes you feel like you're outside, and especially if all the doors were open, you would get a beautiful cross breeze from the ocean. So currently, we are using this space for the Newport Music Festival, and that's what it's set up for because we have concerts in the evenings during the summer. So this is the morning room, and this is where the ladies would retreat to after dinner. They would also utilize this room in the morning, hence the name, because the light is always beautiful coming in here. And the first thing that you kind of notice about this room is the beautiful blue-gray color of the walls. And this color was very intentional. It was to emulate the ocean that was outside and to bring the color in here. Another fascinating feature about the walls in here is this beautiful silver color on the back. For years, we didn't know what this was. We finally came and had it tested and found out that it was pure platinum leaf, which is extremely expensive material to use back then and even today. But they have it all throughout this room in the corners, and painted on them, we have the 8 of the 9 muses of classical Greek mythology. And the muses were to inspire arts and poetry and music and dance. And so they really bring a lot to this room. It is absolutely a feminine room. From the lace curtains that you have here, the soft candlelight. This is a French designed room. So this was one of the rooms designed by Jules Allard. And on the ceiling, we have the 4 seasons written in French there and painted on with these beautiful little cherubs flying around. People would just sit in this room and they would talk and they would get together. So they would have tea a lot of times in this room, and women would socialize. So I think if Mrs. Vanderbilt had guests coming in here, this would be the room that they would gather in. So in this room, we have a couple of family portraits. This gentleman here is Cornelius Vanderbilt II, the man who owned the house. It is painted by John Singer Sargent, and it is the only Sargent painting in Newport, Rhode Island. So we were very lucky to have this here. So this is Gladys Vanderbilt Cicchini. She was the youngest daughter in the family, and she is the one who inherited the house after her mother died. And in 1948, she leased the first floor of the Breakers to the Preservation Society for just $1 a year. She paid all the maintenance costs on the house. We paid $1 a year, and we were able to give tours of the first floor. Family moved up to the second floor, and in that first summer that it was open, we raised $25,000, and those funds went to help restore one of our other houses, Hunter House, that's in the Point section of Newport. She believed that the houses were changing at the time. People weren't coming to these houses anymore as much, and she wanted to do good. She wanted to help out the Preservation Society. She was friends with the woman, Catherine Warren, who started the Preservation Society in 1945, and she wanted to do her part to help us out, and she had the means to do it. From 1948 to 1972, we gave tours of the first floor of the Breakers, and in 1972, we were able to purchase the house from the Cicchini daughters for just under $400,000, which may seem really low to you, but it was market value at the time. From the morning room, we're going to enter the music room. And if you watch HBO's The Gilded Age, you may recognize this room used in the ball of the Russell Mansion at the end of season 1. This room back in the Vanderbilt's time was also used for balls, for recitals. The family here was very musical. They all played instruments, and they would gather here nightly, play instruments, and talk and relax as a family. Gertrude Vanderbilt, who was the eldest daughter, got married in this room in 1896. So it's really a beautiful room, and it's very gilded. So if you look around, there is gold leaf everywhere, from the ceilings, on the walls, and then emulated in the curtains and the furniture, we have the gold and that red color again that I mentioned as Vanderbilt red. Up on the ceiling, you'll see this room is again designed in a French style by Jules Allard. And so on the ceiling, we have all of the composers written in French. So Handel, Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, and we also have melody and harmony. And so this was very much meant to be a music room to play music in and to enjoy in that capacity. The family members played music. They all did play different instruments, so they would play together, but they also would hire bands to come in here and play when they had balls, and they would come and set up in this corner. We have this beautiful oval shape here, and so it would easily set up a stage that people could play in. And in fact, in the Gilded Age, you'll see the stage with the musicians up here and everybody dancing in front of it. So it was very similar to how it was used at that time. They could move the furniture out when they had the balls in here. So yeah, this piano is really interesting. It is a French Empire mahogany ormolu mounted. So if you look, I especially want to show the keys because they're really beautiful. It's mother of pearl keys, and you can see how much they shine. They have the rainbow color in there, and there's this beautiful scroll work that's painted on it. And so this is from 1870s. This is platinum leaf again in the center. So if you look on the ceiling, we have a coffered ceiling. So it is these little squares that are inside. There's like a checkerboard pattern on there with a lot of gold leaf. And the center panel, there's an egg shape, and that is all platinum leaf again in here. Coming down the sides of the walls, we have white onyx and a beautiful polished agate in the center there. So lots of semi-precious stones decorating this room throughout. A really neat feature of this room, if you see, we have mirrors on either side, and they are symmetrical, so they link up, and if you look through them, it's an endless chain of mirrors all the way down. And this was actually modeled after the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. Many of the materials were imported from overseas. We do have some Indiana limestone that was here that was locally from the United States, but a lot of the materials were brought over from Europe. We have marble from North Africa that was here, and then Italy, Switzerland, so many different materials were brought over here. And if you think of that, just the feat of that, bringing these materials over by ship and then having to cart them up in horse and buggy because they didn't have cars back then, it's really spectacular if you think about that, and that it was only done in just over 2 years. So we're going to be entering the last room on the first floor. This is the library. So I mentioned Richard Morris Hunt designed 2 rooms in this house on the first floor, and the billiard room was one and the library is the other. And this is my other favorite room, mainly because look at this fireplace. It is unbelievable. This was taken from a French chateau in Burgundy, France, and it's almost 500 years old, fits beautifully in here. And so we believe that he designed the entire room around this chimney piece here. So we have this beautiful painting here done by William Rankin in 1932 of Mrs. Vanderbilt and her 2 daughters enjoying tea in this room. So they would utilize this room often, and they would use the fireplace. They were only here in the summer, but there was some chilly summer evenings, so they would absolutely use that fireplace. And what I love about this room, another thing, is if you look on the walls over here, this is a library, and so they made the walls to look like a stippled book binding of a leather book. So this is Circassian walnut. It's from the borders of Russia and Turkey, and it has the gold leaf stippled on top of it, and so it looks like you're looking at a leather-bound book, which is really impressive. I'm not sure why they spent so much time on ceilings, but I feel like if you have money, why not, right? I mean, your whole room is beautiful, and so you want people to look everywhere and see beautiful around. I know nowadays we have white ceilings and that's about it. Nobody really puts a lot of care into ceilings, but all of the ceilings in this house are spectacular. And I think that just encapsulates the entire room and just makes you feel like you're part of the experience. And in this room, we have a coffered ceiling. Every other square are the twin dolphins, and dolphins are the symbol of sea and hospitality. And so those are seen, again, often throughout the decoration. Also, on the ceiling just below, there's these green panels, and that is Spanish leather embossed with silver leaf. And so again, putting leather up on your walls is just something that people don't do anymore, but it was an expensive material and they added it as part of the decoration because why not? So the interior design on the first floor was mainly Jules Allard and Sons of Paris, and they designed all of the French style rooms down on the first floor. The other 2 rooms, the billiard room and the library, were designed by Richard Morris Hunt, who was the architect of the house itself. And then the upstairs bedrooms were designed by Ogden Codman. He was a young architect out of Boston, and it's a very different style upstairs. It's not as heavy, not as dark. It's a much lighter feel with pastels and creams and ivory colors. So this beautiful room is Gertrude Vanderbilt's bedroom. She was the oldest daughter. She was the one who got married downstairs in the music room, and she really had her own taste. Later in life, she became a sculptress, and she knew what she wanted. And if you look at the walls here, we have this beautiful wall covering. It's of American Beauty red roses. Those were her favorite flowers. And so when she picked out the design for this room, that's what she wanted on the walls. And what's really neat is that this is a reproduction of it, but if you look behind this door, you can see the original piece of it. So this is original copy, but it's obviously been faded and we had it reproduced. This is her. So this is her at the age of 5, and this is by the Spanish portrait artist Madrazo. We have a portrait of her and then of her mother that was painted at the same time by the Spanish artist. We recently just acquired this painting, so we're very excited that we have it up here. So this is her daughter, Flora, and this is Gertrude in later years. So Gertrude was a patroness of the arts, in particular American artists. And so in the late 1920s, she was trying to be an advocate for American artists, and she had acquired a whole bunch of paintings. She tried to donate them to the Met, and the Met didn't want them because people looked down on American art at the time. And so she instead decided to open up her own museum, which is the Whitney Museum of American Art, which is still in New York City today. At the time, people who lived in these houses wanted to emulate themselves after European royalty. And in European royalty, they always faced the front of the house so they could see who was coming and going into their house. So Gertrude lucked out because she has this beautiful ocean view from her bedroom. Gertrude was a sculptress, and she designed many sculptures around the room. This one in particular is a model that she made, and it's of a sculpture that is in Saint-Nazaire, France. And so this is the miniature version of it. It was quite large. There's a picture of it on the wall in France, so you can see sort of what it looked like right near the ocean. Many people wonder why the beds are so small. They're not particularly small, but because of the size of the room being 20-foot ceilings, they look a lot smaller, and they didn't have king-size beds like we do today. So the beds generally were single or double beds, and so this is just a single that she has in here. But lengthwise, it is a normal-sized bed. A lot of people think they were so short back then, but that's not necessarily the case. It's just with the scale of the room, it looks small. So the bedroom up here and all the other bedrooms on this floor look very different from the downstairs. Like I said, it was designed by Ogden Codman Jr. He was a young architect out of Boston. He used a very different style. It's light creams, ivories, very subdued, not as overstuffed, much less furniture than we had in the downstairs areas. And there's no gold leaf, no gilding. Everything is very, very soft lines and very simplistic. So this is Mr. Vanderbilt's bedroom. Like I said, it faces the front of the house, so he would get to see who was coming and going. Now, Mr. Vanderbilt, his room is quite large, but it's not as intricate as Mrs. Vanderbilt's room was because he was only here on the weekends. And so he would come up for 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, but it would just be the weekends because he was working in New York City. So the male bedrooms are not usually as ornate, have as much furniture as the female bedrooms do. But one piece that I really love in here is this fireplace. This is called Rouge Royale marble, and it again is something that emulated European royalty because in Europe, really only the royalty would have this type of marble in their house. And it's a beautiful kind of reddish gray color, and it matches all the furniture in the room. So Mr. Vanderbilt really only got to enjoy this house for about 3 short years. He had a stroke the year after they moved into the house in 1896 and was in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And then 3 short years later after that, he had a second stroke, which was fatal, and he died just slightly before his 56th birthday. The wedding that they had downstairs for Gertrude in 1896 was why they had it here is because he had had his stroke. So rather than having a giant wedding in New York City, they did it as a smaller family affair. So this is Mrs. Vanderbilt's bedroom. It's located right above the music room, so it has that same oval shape as downstairs. Her room is quite large, and that's because she was the lady of the house. So she was the one that was organizing all of the parties, all of the dinners. So she has a desk in the corner of her room, and she has chairs in here so she could invite close friends up here to talk with her as well. So it was more of an office/bedroom than just a bedroom. And Mr. and Mrs. Vanderbilt has separate bedrooms. Again, they wanted to emulate themselves after European royalty, and it was the style to have separate bedrooms, but they were joined by this amazing bathroom that I'm going to show you next. So this is Mr. and Mrs. Vanderbilt's shared bathroom. It is a beautiful bathroom. It is white marble surrounding all of the walls. This amazing marble tub. If you look at this, it is actually carved from one solid block of marble, and it's really intricate. The scroll work on the side, and it's huge. It's so deep. I would love to have a tub like this these days. But the unique thing about it, it has 4 faucets. And we had not only regular hot and cold water, but they had hot and cold salt water that they piped in from the ocean. Salt water was very therapeutic to bathe in at the time, and so you'll notice in all the tubs around the house, they have the 4 faucets there. We have another unique little feature here. This bath Many people don't know what this is, and it's probably the #1 question that we're asked when we're working here. What is this? A lot of people think it's a foot bath, different things, but it is a Sitz Bath. At the time, they did a lot of horse riding, a lot of carriage riding, jostled around a lot. So this was a place that they could easily soak their bottom exterior. And again, the marble was a beautiful tub, but it was cold marble, and it took probably about 3 or 4 times to fill it up and let the water go until it was hot enough to retain the heat of the water. And so this was a quick way to just get clean. So this was just a pedestal chair that they could sit on, and they had a little foot area. So if they wanted to put on their slippers after their bath, then they could stand up. And if they needed to get like a dress fit for Mrs. Vanderbilt, they could do the hemming on here. Very different from how we have today. No California king beds, no double sinks. Everything was a lot smaller, ironically smaller, but the rooms were larger. So we saw the inside of the house, which is spectacular, but the outside is not too shabby. So the house was actually built on 13.1 acres. The house itself takes up 1 acre of that land, and we have a beautiful ocean view. We are right on the Newport Cliff Walk, which is a beautiful walk that people can take, and they go back and forth along the water to view all these houses. And it's very serene, lots of greenery space, beautiful gardens, amazing specimen trees that are located throughout the property. So even if you come here and you just want to walk the grounds, that's something that you can do as well. If you've seen the house before, come and enjoy the grounds. We allow picnicking on our grounds, so it's a beautiful place to bring your picnic and enjoy your day. So the house itself is load-bearing brick with steel, and the outside is a limestone, and it's very beautifully carved. If you can see it, there's carvings on here, and it was done by Carl Bitter. And he was a very prominent sculptor at the time, and he made these beautiful, beautiful sculptures. It's a work of art in itself, and you can sit out here and you can look at it multiple times, and every time you'll see something new that you didn't see before because there's so much to look at. And again, unbelievable that it took just over 2 years to build this house. So I have thoroughly enjoyed taking you through the Vanderbilt's home, and I hope someday you'll be able to come to Newport, Rhode Island and see it in person.
Thanks for watching. For more home-worthy content, be sure to like and subscribe.